Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the pre-recorded segment of T3Live. So today's episode is all about tools, tool usage, tool maintenance, and how we, because of these things, thumbs, have been able to invent all manner of tools. Everything from being able to carve some branches in a certain manner and make a fire to microscopes that can make the single cell in the fly of an eye the size of a basketball. We have all this crazy stuff. But we shouldn't forget, should I say, that the most important tool we have in the world is ourselves and how we go through our lives. This ties back to a video I did about a while ago about, people telling me, you should just go get a job. I'm like, you don't understand. Yeah, I could go out and get a job somewhere, but the minute you step off the path of walking your vision, you pay for it in other ways. So I'd rather not break myself, but bust my butt now, and make my businesses into something that can support my meager existence, which it is for the most part. But yeah, how we approach the world, how we interact with each other, right? So imagine yourself as a hammer. You can hammer people with your crappy attitude and your complaining about, and I'm just as guilty as the rest, complaining about why this or that didn't go your way, instead of just suiting up and doing it. And that's a hard lesson I had to learn recently, is that no matter what, every day, no matter what mood I'm in, I say, today is the first day of the rest of my life, and I'm going to suit up, and I'm going to put a smile on my face, and I'm going to be nice to every single person I come into contact with. And when we do that, we become a tool of goodness. And, that happy, jolly vibe is contagious. One time I went into an Office Depot and I, was super nice and friendly with the cashier. I could tell that she was in a bad mood. And I actually bought the wrong thing and I had to go back later on that day. And she actually thanked me. She said, earlier I was just hating my life. And then you come in, and you were teasing me. And it just made me realize that, why be grouchy? Why be angry? What's the point? What is this serving? Is this helping to uplift me, or is it dragging me down? So we always want to be trying to go for that upward trajectory. We want to be in the bear market of the human tool exchange. But yeah, how we use ourselves as a tool in our everyday life is really important. And that's why, some of the most profound teaching situations I've had in my life have just been random encounters with people at stores or on the street, things like that. So yeah, that's why I tell people every morning after you say that, today is the first day of the rest of my life, you don't forget to empty your cup and approach your day as if you don't have a past. And when we do that, we approach that wide angle vision life that we all seek, that alpha state, we realize that everyone and everything we come into contact with can teach us something, and vice versa. So now, on to the rest of the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number, I don't know, quite a few. But I hope you enjoyed that little video. I was planning on talking about it, during the live webinar, but like I said, I was out filming, looking for some elk tracks or some mountain lion sign, and I just decided, Intervision told me record this little couple minute video here and drop it in. Plus it also helps me to learn OBS and all this. I'm still having difficulties. For months my Nikon worked perfectly fine as my webcam, and now for some reason it just doesn't work anymore, and Nikon nor Apple has an answer for me as to why. But yeah, so I basically got my plug-in webcam on my big tripod. It's a little further away than it should be, but you don't want to see my ugly butt anyway. So yeah, so tonight is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that is tools and gear. We as a species, without these guys right here, without our thumbs, without these guys, we wouldn't have been able to create, starting off with simple tools. Think about what the first tools probably were. Throwing sticks, rocks, right? And then somebody probably figured out that, if I char my stick in the fire and scrape it on a rock, I can, make it into a sharp point, and I can use it as a spear. And then one day somebody was carrying a rock and they dropped it and it broke a certain way, and they were like, I wonder if I use another rock to hit it, if I can break it and make it into the shape of an arrowhead. It's a lot of these skills, it's pretty easy to think about, imagine the origin of them. Friction fire still just, that boggles my mind, how somebody figured out that by supposedly hand drill is the first and oldest fire making method at about 200,000 years. How they figured out that, rubbing that stock in that fireboard, creating that ember, where they got the idea for that. We all know, obviously, if we rub our hands together, we generate warmth. But, the peoples that created the bulk of these skills, their brain was no different than ours. So tools have been an incredibly important part of our existence. Today we have a multitudinous amount of tools, gear, and gadgets available to us. Especially in the outdoor gear world, or the computer world, or the camera world. It's all the same. Every year, there's a new model that's got this much better stuff, if you look back a generation, my grandfather, let's take my grandfather for instance. Back then they made, cars that you could work on, because everything in the engine was accessible. You didn't need some crazy computer software. Um, I think of my grandparents' street that they lived on, and every single person that lived on that street did all their own auto repair, all their own home repair. You know, if you had to call in like a plumber or something, you would get incessantly made fun of by the rest of the people in the neighborhood. And then in just two generations later, one generation later, we now have millions more people, but nobody knows how to do anything. Nobody knows how to fix anything. Tools have become too complicated to fix. In certain instances, it's illegal or will void your warranty if you try to fix it yourself. In fact, I think there was a bill put before Congress not too long ago about the right to be able to repair our own things. I ran into issues with John Deere tractors because their software is proprietary and you can only get access to it if you work at the shop. And the tractor had an OBD reader. For those aren't familiar, it's this little device that you plug into a port that's under your dashboard, and there's an app that connects to your phone, and you can read everything about the engine, like what temperature everything's running at. It'll tell you what problems are with it. And I expected when I got this John Deere tractor to be able to plug it in, and nope. You can only fix this if you work at John Deere, therefore forcing the consumer to spend more money by sending them to the shop. That's why, I'm going to switch to cars for a minute. Car is a tool. If you ever own a car, or you own a car, do not take your car to the dealership unless it is still under warranty. Because once your warranty ends, it goes from being the dealership, hey, how you doing, to the stealership. Let's see how many fake problems we can come up with and charge. So, yeah, that's just a word of advice. Find a good local mechanic when your car goes out of warranty. So, wow, I'm getting all sorts of good advice today. I'm on a roll here. So yeah, so back to tools. If you, as somebody who is a student of human history and history in general, and you look at the progression of how we went from, the Stone Age to the Bronze Age or the Copper Age, I forget. Sometimes we get mixed up. Anyway, as we started to figure out in newer technologies, found that one material was better than another, it lasted longer, etc. Those older technologies were discarded, and it's the same thing. If all you have is I should have grabbed one from up there, a stone knife, or if I'm in the woods, let's say, in a survival situation, and all of a sudden a Gandalf appears in front of me, and he says, "I will trade you this T3Live Genesis Scandi grind knife for that stone knife," I'd be like, "Gimme," because stone tools are great. They do their job fantastically. But compared to this, they are incredibly brittle. So one thing I will say is that I am an official ambassador for T3Live knives. What originally drew me to them as knife makers is my friend Carly. Many of you, if you watch the show Lost, Alone, I think she made it like 84 days. I've known Carly since she was, you know, really young, and she took to the skills, and she made it, I think, like 80 something days before they pulled her out, and she's more hardcore than I am. But anyway, through her, I reached out to T3Live because I had actually bought one of their knives, and I was like, finally a knife that is made by people who actually do the same skills, carving, things like that, that I do, versus 99%, maybe not that many, but 90% of the knives out there that you see at Cabela's, those were designed on a computer by some kid who's never, used a knife for anything other than chopping vegetables. So I would much rather go with, a tool that is incredibly well crafted, and but more importantly, B, is made by somebody who, does the same things that I do. That way, I'm guaranteed. And that's another thing. When if you're going to invest your money in gear, make sure, it's good gear. I do have a gear I recommend page on my website. Just some quick news on that. I'm going to be separating my website soon. We're going to go from tombrown3.com will be, the home of future nature in my school. And then we're going to do T3-photo.com, which is where my photography and my school store and my t-shirts and all that other stuff will live. Because I want to, move the photography stuff so I can make room for a more interactive website for plans I have in the future, especially revolving around the online classes. Long-term online classes I'm eventually going to be doing. But yeah, so I learned a lesson many, many years ago from my father. I was probably, I don't know, 7 years old or so, and for some reason I decided it was a good idea to take this hatchet that we had and just pound it into this 50-inch diameter sycamore stump. Pound it right in the middle. And it was one of those old hatchets with the metal handle, and then it had the leather rings. Not very high quality made tool. So I bang the thing in there with the biggest maul I could swing, and I get it stuck. And then I start whacking away at the handle with the sledgehammer to get it loose. And my dad walks over, and one of the most disheartening things my father would ever say to me, is he would say, and when he really wanted to, drive the point home, he would look at me and he'd be like, "You're acting like a city boy." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not a city boy." But anyway, he helped me get the hatchet out of the stump, and he said, "Is that the right tool for the job you were trying to do?" And I was like, "No, I probably should have, brought two axes and started at one, put one in towards one edge, one directly across, and pounded them both in equally." And he was like, "You know better, And he said, "Not only that, but you damaged the hatchet trying to loosen it." And then he said, if you don't take care of your tools will not take care of you. And that has always stuck with me. As before embarking on the crazy, thing behind my head, I worked at a really large outdoor school here in, here in Oregon. And, uh, you know, there's a lot of people, and I was always amazed at how people, were disrespectful to gear that, the company had provided so they could run awesome programs. And it's what I call the rental car mentality, right? You get the rental car, if you get the full insurance, you can, drive it into a barrier 10 feet out of the parking lot, and they'll get you a new car and you won't have to pay for it. Unless, you didn't get the insurance. It's one of the reasons why I buy all my electronics at Best Buy. Shout out to Best Buy. I am not sponsored by Best Buy, by the way. But they have this thing called the Total Tech Guarantee, and it's $200 per year. And in the course of me becoming a commercially licensed drone operator, I have gone through, I think, 12 drones, but I've only paid for 4 of them because of that guarantee. I crash my drone, I just walk in there with the parts and they hand you a brand new one. So $200 a year might sound like a lot, but it saved me tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, you always make sure you got a good warranty. But yeah, how if we don't take care of our tools won't take care of us. And what, going back to something I think I put in the description, a long time ago, I read a book about pagodas in Japan and how they're built by these master carpenters who make these joints where the wood just slides together, and they're so precise, you can't, it's amazing. And then I was blown away when I read that they spend a third of their workday sharpening and maintaining their tools. A third of their workday sharpening, maintaining their tools. I am the type of person where, if I, my LT Wright Genesis is always in my bag. If I'm teaching a class, it's always on my side. Anytime I use it, even if it's just to help a student shave their bow drill spindle down a little bit and the knife is still really sharp, at the end of the day, I will still come in and clean it off, and I will just do a real quick sharpen on the ultrafine, strop it, oil it a little bit, and put it away. The same is true with any of my tools. I clean them as soon as I'm done using them. I sharpen my chainsaw at the end of the day. That way, tomorrow when I need to go chainsawing, I can just ready to roll. I have a steel Farm Boss chainsaw that I bought a week after moving to Oregon. Where I live, you pretty much have to carry a chainsaw around in your car if you want to reliably go anywhere in the winter, because there's just trees come down everywhere. I've taken such good care of that thing that after 6 years, 6 years in February, it still starts up on the second pull. Doesn't matter if it's the middle of winter or summer, because every time after I use it, I take the side plate off, I clean all the wood gunk out, I clean out the air filter, clean out the spark plugs, and stuff just lasts so much longer. And that's the thing, if we are going to bring about this age of the caretaker that I keep talking about, we need to, start maintaining our tools a little better so we don't throw them out and just go buy another one. And the messed up thing is the companies purposely make their stuff fall apart after, X amount of years. So you're forced to go and buy another one. It's absolute insanity. So I would much rather spend good money, a couple $100 on a knife, that if I take care of this, I will hand this to, my grandchildren one day, somebody one day. This will be around and in perfect condition, unless I have to fight a cougar, which I'm willing to do. This will be around, as will my, my Strider folding knife that was given to me as a gift by a student, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. This is anybody who knows folding knives probably heard about Strider knives. They're just about the most expensive, useful folding knives out there. Like I was teaching a class in Colorado, and I was talking about knives and different steel types, and I said, there's this one knife that I've always wanted. It's by Mick Strider. And I get home from teaching that class, and 2 weeks later a random package shows up, and in it is this knife, and it turned out one of the students at my class owned a custom knife shop, and he gifted it to me for a wonderful class. So this is one of my most cherished tools. Speaking of cherished tools, so this right here is, and I'm ashamed that I don't have the axe that goes with it, but this right here, this is one of my, the apocalypse happens. Of the few things that are coming with me, this is one of them. So this was made for me by this French Canadian guy named, I think Simon was the name, and he was into making knives for cutting competitions, which is actually a thing, believe it or not. You gotta chop through a bunch of rope and boards and things like that in a certain amount of time. And he said, "Tom, T3, I want to make you a knife. What kind of knife would you like?" And I was like, I've always dreamed of a combination between a kukri knife. Those who don't know, kukri knife is carried by a certain regiment of soldiers that belong to either Pakistan or India, but it's basically a curved knife. And I said, I've always dreamed of a kukri knife having a baby with a Bowie knife. And he comes back a couple classes later, and he made this for me out of a Ford F-150 leaf spring. And he made the antler handle from the first moose he ever harvested. And I believe he won a cutting competition with it before giving it to me. So this is definitely going in my. I have this. I'm kicking myself for not having having the hatchet that goes with it. I'll add some video to the recording. But I want to take a step back though for a second and talk about ourselves as a tool, because without the human hours and labor, things wouldn't get done. whether it's inventing microchips to make your phones faster, your cameras take better pictures, to you know construction, whatever. So we in ourselves are a tool, both mentally and physically. you know First we have our body, we're able to lift things, we're able to carry things, we're able to build things. But then, we also have that internal tool of what we want to portray to the world about who we are. That's why I mentioned in the video that, even if I'm having the crappiest day ever, when I come into contact with people, I am nice and cheery and happy and kind, and it spreads. It spreads. So what's the saying? Go be the change that you want to see. So that's why every morning I wake up, no matter what crap storm I'm facing that day. I get up, I say today is the first day of the rest of my life, and I empty my cup, and I get up, and I just start doing things. And ever since I switched to that mentality, my life has gotten much better, much more enjoyable. Yeah. Speaking of gear, I would be remiss, and excuse me for stepping off stage for a second, but I want to talk about clothing really quickly, especially for those of us who are outdoor, outside most of the time, 365 days a year. So here in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lie that people think that we get tons of rain, like way more rain than anywhere else in the world. When in fact, if you look at our rainfall average, it's on par with just about everywhere else in this country. The thing is, from November until sometimes July, it's like misty, spitty rain, although we do get our fair share of rainstorms, being so close to the Pacific, and I live right on the mountain range where the moisture stacks up. So I wear, in the winter time and I'm going out, I wear 100% everything wool. From my socks to my long underwear to my pants to my mid layers, and all the way out to another company I am proud to be an ambassador for, and that is Weather Wool. And I will put links to both T3Live knives and Weather Wool in the link to this show. But I don't wear rain gear here in the Pacific Northwest. One of the awesome things about wool is the lanolin in it prevents water from fully penetrating the fibers. So even if it gets damp, it still maintains a lot of its insulating capabilities. Not only that, but if you can get out of the rain for a little while, just your body heat will dry it out. Or if you happen to be lucky enough to have a fire, it dries out almost instantly. On the worst blustery, rainy day, I'll go out and I'll have, this on top, and 2 or 3 good thick wool layers. I've never had it get past the anorak. There's one time I can think of. The only time I wear that like PVC rubber rain gear is if I'm operating heavy equipment in the rain. Because you're sitting in a puddle, essentially. Wool is the way to go. And it's funny, with all of our cool technologies, there's still certain things that we can't make that aren't as good as something natural. So, I will tell you that weather wool um, is the finest hardcore outdoor wool clothing out there. Uh, it is expensive, but once again, they have an amazing warranty. And if I take care of this in 190 years when I die, uh, as emperor, I, will pass this down to one of my acolytes. Sorry, I've been reading too much Dune lately. Yeah, so Weatherwool, fantastic gear. Um, the other thing with tools too is, if you don't know where your tool is that you need to use, then it's no good to you. So also organize your tools. Now I have in the shop what I call the shame bucket, and it is a square bucket that is filled with just random wrenches and things that have gotten separated from the rest of their kit. And I shake my head because I'm embarrassed for myself that it's mine. And one day I'm going to go out there and dump that thing out on a piece of cardboard and go through and clean it. But yeah, store your tools in such a way that, the ones you use the most, have them be the most accessible. The ones you use the least, you can tuck them up in a closet somewhere. It's up to you. Another big thing for me is how people, I touched on this before, but using other people's tools. If someone is nice enough or generous enough to loan you a tool, you should give it back to them in better condition than when you got it. For instance, the other night I needed to borrow a label maker to label, some hard cases from, one had to be labeled for audio recording, and one was for my monitor for my gimbal. And my landlord gave me his label maker, and I made my labels, and I noticed it was all dusty, so I took the time, I took my camera cleaning stuff, and I spent 5 minutes and I cleaned it off really nice. And the thing looked brand new, and I gave it back to him. And he was like, wow, thank you very much. And that inspired him to then go clean up a bunch of his other tools. So, I said it before, and I will say it in closing. If you take care of your tools will take care of you. If you ever have a question on any sort of outdoor gear / tools, don't hesitate to reach out. Contact me through my website. A couple other things I want to talk about. So this class that I am doing with La Primitifs from up in Quebec is going to be freaking awesome. It is March 3rd through 9th. And we've actually decided to open up a few more spaces. So you can get there through my website on the schedule page, and it'll take you to his page to register. You will have to translate it from French, though. It's pretty easy to do. We're calling it a nature immersion class. It's going to be part how to heighten our physical senses, heighten our instincts, and how to really immerse ourselves in nature to the point where we are part of our surroundings, and the cold doesn't bother us as much, and the rain doesn't bother us as much. It's just there. I'm really, really looking forward to that class. So that's the 3rd through the 9th. For those of you who live around here or within a couple hours drive, I just added a few day classes to my schedule on weekends. I'm going to put up a couple overnight weekend style classes as well, as we move into the bowels of winter. But don't worry, I don't make you sit out in the rain the whole time. We do spend a little bit of time under a canopy near a fire. because, if you're cold, wet, and miserable, you don't learn as well, and you don't have as good time, and you don't leave as awesome as a review. Oh yeah, and one other thing, if you haven't noticed, I have been taking some of my photos and putting them on clothing. So if you go on my school store, you see some awesome t-shirts that I've created lately. And as usual, if you ever see a photo on Instagram of mine that you like, or but isn't for sale, just contact me, and I can get you a copy of any of the gajillion photos I have. Yeah. Last but not least, I just want to thank you all for taking your time, the last 45 minutes to listen to me talk about the importance of tools. And I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you're happy and healthy, and that you are anxiously awaiting the spring that is yet to be born, because I sure the hell am. It's like 4 hours of daylight as a filmmaker. It's not very, it's hard to get a lot done. But I have so much gratitude for anybody who chooses to listen to anything I have to say. I just got my rights back to advertise on Instagram after 2 years. Thank you. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I've been putting up some more classes. Otherwise, I'm mostly focusing on private classes. So if you want a private class, contact me, and we will work out a deal. I'm not in this to get rich. As long as my needs are met, I want people to be able to access the information that's in my head, because I want them to lead better lives, and I want to do it as cheaply as I possibly can. So that's why I have things like my GoFundMe and things like that, because it allows me to subsidize a little bit. And I'm hoping to make that even more of a thing in the future as Future Nature and T3 Photography continue to grow. Until next time, we'll probably be about a week or two until I do another T3Live, but keep an eye on my socials as I update those daily, and I'm going to be adding yet more classes to my schedule. So I will be sure to send out a newsletter. Don't forget, if you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, you get a special gift. So tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe to my YouTube, hit that bell icon. I always watch these YouTube shows and they say like this and hit the bell icon every 3 seconds. And anyway, all right, I'm gonna go do what needs to be done, which is work. So until next time, y'all, peace and love.